You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Federal judge issues massive blow to Trump's xenophobic project, based on an article by Nick Hilden. TPS exists at the pleasure of power. The narrow fact: a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's move to terminate temporary protected status for Ethiopians, keeping refugees in legal limbo while the case continues. That is the surface event. The deeper fact is simpler. The White House tried to strip protection, and only litigation stopped it. Who actually decided? The decision that matters here was not the judge's stay, it was the administration's attempt to end TPS in the first place. That is where institutional power sits. In the executive branch's ability to turn refuge into deportability with the stroke of a pen. Everyone else is reacting to that fact after the damage is already in motion. The article's own framing calls this a blow to Trump's anti-immigrant agenda, which is true but too polite. The agenda is not abstract policy theater. It is the use of state power to make people removable again, even when their home country is still unsafe. The harm is deliberate, not accidental. The court is a break, not a remedy. Judge Brian Murphy's order is procedural. The ruling itself says an administrative stay is not about the merits. It buys time. That matters because the system's celebrated checks and balances here amount to delaying a deportation machine, not dismantling it. That is the problem with immigration politics in this country. Refugees are forced to win their right not to be expelled through emergency motions, docket management, and temporary pauses. Safety becomes a litigation status. Stability becomes something a judge can suspend or restore for a few weeks at a time. What the story omits. The article correctly notes that TPS covers people who cannot safely return because of war, disaster, or similar conditions. It also notes that the Trump administration has been trying to end Ethiopia's designation since December. That is the useful context. What the framing does not confront hard enough is the underlying cruelty of the setup. A system that lets an administration chase refugees into court while calling it ordinary governance is already operating on authoritarian instinct. The cruelty is bureaucratic only in form. In substance, it is state-backed expulsion pressure. Biden's judge, Trump's machinery. The detail that the judge was appointed by Joe Biden is politically useful only if it distracts from the actual structure of power. A Biden appointee can slow Trump's attack, but that does not change the fact that the attack is being launched by a president and the executive apparatus he controls. This is where lazy horse race framing fails. The issue is not which party wins a headline. The issue is that one party is using government power to target vulnerable people and the other is relying on courts to slow the knife. Those are not symmetrical positions, and pretending they are only flattens the reality the refugees are living through. The larger pattern: TPS is supposed to be temporary protection for people who cannot safely return home. In practice, it is often temporary only in the sense that its survival depends on whether the current president wants to honor human reality or weaponize immigration bureaucracy. That is the system's real lesson. Protection in the United States is often conditional on executive restraint, and executive cruelty is always easier to deploy than judicial relief is to obtain. The refugee's security is never treated as a right. It is treated as a revocable administrative convenience. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of Clara, thanks for listening.